And in order to actually serve that, you have to be a slave to people who are praising that self. And in this case, he was utilizing an example of the kings. Before protesters, kings fall down prostrate, and sober people, drunks, intoxicate. So in this case, what he's saying is that every king is basically tries to continue somebody who actually came from before him, because that gives the continuation of the dynasty that they're in it. And also people are happy, or they get their happiness once they keep on keeping themselves or their self happy. So in this case, our happiness comes, and this is a false happiness, of course. It comes when we keep our ego happy. Every time our ego is happy and it's in check, we feel that happiness. So having said that, let's go forward. Let's not spend more time on going back. So it says the hunter changes to the bird's own prey to make them his own victim in this way. So this is basically, he's given an example of somebody who's hunting a bird or something. And it says, he tries to kind of look like one, or he tries to disguise himself in such way that the prey doesn't, necessarily see him. And once he actually disguises himself, that's when he can actually hunt his prey. And again, the disguise is always something that, in order for us to become or have that ability to rule, we need to disguise certain ambition or certain feelings or certain words so that others will not be offended. The lovesick seek their sweethearts with their soul. Their sweethearts are their prey. This is their role. Now, in this case, I don't think he hasn't translated these few lines that well. So we read them, and then my explanation are going to be slightly different than the translation itself. So basically, anyone who is so when somebody seeks somebody out of love, they seek them with their soul, okay? And the fact of the matter is that every beloved is always hunted by a lover. So somebody who loves somebody else is after them. It's, they're trying to hunt them in a way. Regard each lover as beloved too, since it depends on just your point of view. So what he's saying is, this is not necessarily based on point of view, but if you remember at the very beginning of Masnavi, one of the things that he had told us is that there is no lover. It's always the beloved. It is always that beloved. I mean, in order for you to fully love somebody, you have to completely dissolve in them. So in this case, the fact of the matter is that that's why each lover is the beloved too, because the lover doesn't necessarily have any sort of sense of identity. It's all dissolved in them, since it depends on just your point of view. For if the thirsty search for water, then that means the water is seeking thirsty men. Now he's using an example here that what he's saying is that what you seek is, and you have heard this expression in English, is that I think that I've seen it as Rumi quote, which says that You will become what you seek, or something like that. What you seek is what you will become. You probably have seen this quote from people. This is exactly where that quote is coming from. So, for if the thirsty searches for the water, that means the water is seeking. So whatever you search, he's searching you too. So that's when you actually reach it. That means that he's been looking for you as well. Since he's in love, keep quiet. There is no harm. And if he grabs your ear, let him stay. Let him. And if he grabs your ear, let him stay calm. Now, in this case, what he's saying is that as a lover, when you are seeking your love, then don't make a noise about it, because as the moment you start just to seek your love, that means that your love is also looking for you. It's interesting, but it's a fact. Rumi actually utilizes this example in a different poem in Masnavi. We'll get to that later, as to he's trying to tell us that if we love somebody in our heart, if you have the ability to say that I love someone, and you love them within your heart, from your heart, that means that that person also loves you. And he uses this example because that's something that we experience in our daily life. And he uses this example to tell us that if we had the love for God in our heart, if we actually have that love in our heart, that means that God also loves us. So it doesn't mean that this doesn't mean that God doesn't love us, first of all. The second thing is that what it means is that find that love, and that's when you actually make that connection, because it just brings a lover to a beloved much quicker, much faster, and the connection is much stronger. So that's why he says this. So since he's in love, keep quiet. There is no harm. And says that, if you feel love, just keep quiet. And if he grabs your ear, that means that if your lover grabs your ear, let him stay calm. So allow him to just, in this case, grabbing your ear means like if, you go up and down because of the journey that you have chosen, the journey of understanding your love and understanding understanding God. If that thing takes you up and down, it takes you, into different directions. Let him do it, because at the end, and stay calm. And in this case, staying calm means like have faith within your heart that there is no harm that would come your way. No, damn the rising flood. Don't let it loose to shame us all with damaging abuse. So he's saying that this statement is basically him talking to himself. He's saying that I'm just all of a sudden letting loose a lot of information, a lot of conversation around mysticism and the mysteries around lovers and love. And it says, don't let it loose, don't let this dam break, be careful, you're raising the flood, you're rising, the water level is rising and it might flood, so be careful about that. If there is destruction now, why should I care? The ruins hide the royal treasure there. Now, what this statement says that, again, these are all, you have to understand, as he is having these conversations, he is having an experience, and he's talking from that experience. So he's saying it out loud that, yeah, I am being told that, hey, you have to hold back. You have to refrain from saying these things. Because what you're about to say is going to cause distraction. It's going to cause destruction. It will destroy certain things. And what he's saying is that, damn the destruction, I don't care. As a matter of fact, when things are destroyed and ruins, things are ruined, that's where you actually find treasures. Normally in stories, every treasure that's found, it's always buried somewhere that has been destroyed before. Even treasure hunters that go into the ocean, they always look for the treasures in the ruins of the ships or at the very bottom of the ocean. So it's like, don't worry about that. If there's destruction, the moment there's destruction, then I'll actually find treasure in there.
So does it mean that these two phrases are opposite of each other? Because he's talking about the lover. If you love, he loves. If you're thirsty, the water is thirsty. And all of a sudden, it brings a strong statement that, tide it up and don't let, let's say, water bring damages, and immediately said, actually, let it go. So
Yeah,
the way I understand
it's a push and pull within himself.
Yeah, okay. So
That
that's what I was.
he's speaking out loud, but eventually he restrains. He doesn't let out, obviously, but he eventually restrains. But he cared. He's telling us what comes to him. So he's like, those drowned. Now, in the continuation of this, he says, those drowned in God want more. They want it all. So he's like, if I'm about to get drowned in this sea of mystic, meanings, I want to, that's okay, because everyone who has been drowned in this sea of love, they want more. Just like the tide, their soul rise up, then fall. Bless you. Just like the tide, their soul rises up and fall. So it's like, it doesn't matter, because it just, this thing, just like how I've been saying that, he's going to grab my ear and take me up and down. These tides now are going to take me up and down, and I don't care about that. I actually want it. The ocean's depth or surface, which is the best. So as I go up with these tides, up and down, and this is basically, he's describing his life and basically our life, that our lives are full of these tides that actually take us up and brings us down. And through these, motions, we find more about ourselves and each other. So it says the ocean's depth or surface, which is the best, an arrow or a shield, which are worthiest. So it's like, who cares if it's the depth or the surface, as long as I'm in this ocean. And then he goes, he gives an interesting, he's like, in this case, the arrow and the shield that they're talking about, this is a bad translation again. So he's talking about an arrow that comes from his lover. And it says, if I get an arrow that pointed at me and my lover shoots me, is this better, or if my lover hands me a shield? It's like, I don't care. He can shoot me or he can shield me. I don't care. I don't care. As long as he does it, I don't care. Then the next line, I actually crossed it out because it's like completely off from a translation perspective. It says, you must have been ripped up by whispering heart if you can still tell joy and pain apart. So whispering heart is a bad example in here. So what he's saying is that if you're still at a state that you feel, do I feel joy right now or do I feel pain? It's like, if you still can feel that, that means that there is a self, and that self is still within you. And that self is whispering into your ear. The moment you're emptied out of yourself, you don't care whether it's pain or it's pleasure. You really don't care. You still, if you can still tell joy and pain. The reason we feel the joy and we feel the pain, and in this case, feeling it means that, there is still a self that actually, talks to this body. And it's like, this is what he means by this, that hopefully you get out of this self, and this self would then, put you in a better position of going up and down with these tides. You lust for sugar, don't you know it's true? So it's like, in case you want sugar, you want anything that's sweet. In this case, sugar is a symbolism for anything that sounds right or sounds sweet or sounds, luscious or something like that. So you lust for sugar. Don't you know it's true? Beloved, God wants lack of lust from you. It's like, but you have to understand, you know, what he wants is that you have to let go of this lust, even. You have to completely surrender and let go. And he gives an example. For moons, he puts out all the stars at night to kill the whole world. He has every right. So he's like, in order for a moon, um, you know, um, he's not talking about um, he's not talking about the full moon in this case. He's actually talking about the moon of the beginning of the month, which is extremely, hard to see. And he says that for moons, he puts out all the stars at night to kill the whole world. He has every night. Again, bad translation. He says, in this case, he's saying that he would sacrifice all these stars for a very tiny amount of moon that's surfacing. And therefore, if that's what he does for a very tiny amount of the moon that's visible to us, so who cares if he actually decides to spill everyone else's blood for what he believes is the right price for this love and lover relationship. We've also earned from God a high blood price by offering up our lives as sacrifice. And now this kind of makes sense, because what he's saying is that in order for us to get close to him, we had to pay a fairly high blood price, or we had to give a lot of what's the right expression for when you actually in a when you are it's called diya, I think. When somebody is killed, you pay diya. So if you actually hit somebody in Muslim countries, when you hit somebody with your car,
Blood money?
a blood money,
Yeah,
that's
that's
what
what
they
they
call it.
call it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
blood money. So that's that. He says that the blood money that we pay in this case is extremely high sacrifice. The lover's life is found in death. It's known. You'll earn a heart by giving up your own. So he's like, now you have to understand that, if you want to understand that, and if you want to find your lover, you have to give up your own, in this case, heart. If you remember, we were talking about the four elements, like the soul and the heart and the ego and the mind. Heart is where we would find this GPS for the soul, and would guide us towards God. But he's saying, now he's saying that in order for you to get close to your lover, you have to be willing to completely get rid of your heart as well. What that really means is that as soon as you get close to your lover, you have to be completely consumed by his presence and his love, that you don't need a heart anymore. You have to give up your heart in this case. So you don't need a GPS anymore once you are actually at the presence of your lover. I sought his heart, but had so many cares. He made excuses, weary of my airs. So he's like, now he changes the conversation. So he gave us a whole expression and a whole description as far as what happens when a lover and his love, they get very close together, and how much you have to give up to actually be close to your love, and what you need to do, and how you need to treat your love, and how you need to actually be willing to go up and down with all the tides and all the waves of the ocean of your love. However, he says that now um is like, this statement is not necessarily, he's like, he kind of is complaining. It's funny. So he says, you know, I saw his heart. I keep doing this, but I had so many cares, and cares is not the right word here as well. So it's like, I sought his heart, but I had so many, and I did so many things for him. Whatever he wanted, I just did it. I didn't question it. He made excuses, wary of my errors, and in this case, every time I actually did something, he gave me another excuse, and he gave me another one and another one. I claim my soul is drowning in you, you know. So he's like, at some point, I got really, really tired. And once I got tired, I said, guess what? My soul is really drowning in you. You know, as if I got really frustrated all of a sudden, you know, hey, how come you don't love me anymore? You know, how, you know, people who are, you know, just, you know, teenagers, how, you know, a girlfriend and a boyfriend, how do they talk to each other? You know, the guy feels like, you know, he's done everything and everything and everything. And then he goes, well, he says, I've looked at, you know, I'm telling him that I'm giving everything up for you. And what he says to me instead is like, hey, just get out. I claim my soul is drowning in you. You know, he says, stop chanting spells at me, just go. It's like the moment you actually say or make a complaint that I'm about to drown into you, or I'm doing this for you, and I've done this for you, and all that. The moment you complain about all these things, that's the spell of your ego. And that's when your love comes back and says, hey, stop chanting spells at me, just go. Meaning that, you know, you're still not ready, you're not worthy. And this is now from the perspective of his love, he's talking. He says, I know well what you've tried, and then insist. In this case, what he says is that his love is saying that I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking in your heart. Don't try anymore. When you saw the beloved dualist, now in this case, the dualist is person who actually can't see well, and he sees everything like two, or somebody who's got a cross eye. So he's like, basically, my love tells me the moment I stop complaining, he says, you know what? I think you are a cross-eyed person. You can't see me well. That's why you're thinking now. You keep thinking. You're not feeling it through your heart. You're thinking it. That's why I'm like, he says, hey, you know, just get out of here. Just, you're not worthy of it. You have held him in such low regards, you fool. Now he tells us this. So he says this conversation can happen the moment that we start thinking that, hey, I've done this and I've done that and I'm this and I'm that. Why is it that I can't get connected? Why is it that my prayers are not answered? Why is it that I keep, you know, enduring all these hardship and all that stuff? The moment that we start thinking these things, that's exactly how we are distancing ourselves from that sea of love. And then he says, this is exactly Rumi now talking to us. He says, you have held him in such low regard, you fool, because you bought him cheaply. Heed the rule. So he's like, what do you think about him? And in this case, he's now really referring to God. He's like, you want to get close to him, you have to understand that you got him for free. You got him so cheap. What do you think about him? He's the one who's giving you everything. He's the one who's giving you all these gifts on a daily basis without asking anything. And you got him so cheap. So therefore you're a fool because you think this way. If you're bought cheaply, cheaply you'll sell. A child will swap a pearl for bread. Heed well. So he's like, hey, here's the deal. Because you got him so cheap, you actually sell him cheap as well. And that's because you're still a child. You still haven't developed. You still haven't fully grasped what he's all about. Just like a child that actually is willing to exchange a pearl for a loaf of bread. Inside the same pure love I now have drowned. as that which lovers of past have found. He's like, where I am, I actually am completely drowned into the love of God, which my previous ancestors have also gone to. This case, when he's talking about his previous ancestors, are talking about people who have come before him and have experienced this drowning as well. I don't explain it all, but summarize. My tongue would be burned itself up otherwise. He's like, I can't tell you everything. I can't say everything, because the moment I start telling you everything, my tongue is going to completely, lock up and I can't say it. When I say lip, read the borders by the sea. This is a very hard way to translate this line. What he's saying is that in Farsi, there's an expression that, for instance, if I tell you, if I say the word F, that means that, I'm talking about friendship, for instance. This is what this line is. So he's like, the people who know me, the moment I say, lip, they know exactly what I'm talking about. When I say none, but I read but, the deity. Now, this is the bad translation as well, because what he's referring to here is the expression of La ilaha illallah, which means that there is no God but God. Now, the very first expression is called La, which is none. In this case, it's something that it says La ilaha, so that means that there is no God. Illallah, which means that except the Almighty, right? So he says that when I tell you La, or when I tell you none, or when I say there is no, okay, what that means is that except him. So if I say there is no, you have to know that I mean except him. That's what he's trying to say. Because of sweetness, I look bitter now. Because of sweetness, I look bitter now. So he's like, I got so much sweetness in me that right now I just look bitter, because there's so much to consume. I've talked too much now. Silence is my vow. So no one sees our sweetness, not one trace behind the mask of my most bitter face. So it's like, the reason I actually have a bitter face is because I don't want people to see my sweetness. I don't want them to get, to be informed as far as what I'm really experiencing. It's not for them to know it. Okay. Since they're not suitable for everyone, of countless secrets, I divulge just one. So he's like, because not everybody can hear all of this, all I can tell you is just one secret, which he's about to actually tell us next. Any questions so far about this? Nothing?
It's difficult, really.
Very difficult. I get a lot of things, but it's hard for me to explain.
Okay.
But I get a lot.
Actually, I cheated. I read the Farsi once you were talking. Farsi
Okay.
is a little bit more clear, at least, but it's hard to follow the English part, at least for me.
Same is true for me too. I almost feel like I would appreciate you going through it again.
You want me to read it again? Are you kidding?
No. I mean, like, what do you feel like if you were going to summarize the essence of the pearls of the wisdom, like the child giving up a pearl for the bread, like I feel like that is the most concrete that I can get, but it's so out of this world that it's hard for me to grasp.
All right. Here's the essence of what he's trying to tell you. Here's the essence of it, just to be very, very remember, he's coming to us after the story that he is basically telling us. Remember, he's talking about his tongue first. The parrot it just died because he got a lesson. And he's trying to say that in this case, as he's going through the understanding of what the tongue does and all that, he goes and he starts talking about the fact that hey, I am, whatever happens, whatever happens, I just know. He kind of deviates away from that part, because he's talking about an experience. He's talking about something that was able to talk to him, or something that we are hoping that we would whisper to us what he wants, and eventually is able to actually fly away. Now, in this case, he deviates away, and he says that this bird that's within us is something that you need to figure out. How is it that you were able to actually let him go? And in order to let him go, he starts, if you remember, he keeps on talking about the fact that you have to be burned in order to let him go. You have to burn yourself and all that. So if you remember, he says that he talked about this, and I'm trying to find this. Let's see. Okay, so where was it that he talked about being burned? Source of parrot concealed through the lightning. I'm on fire. Get tinder here and for free, so you can set your grass or. Such a shame. So right before here, it says, I'm on fire. Get tinder here for free, so you can set your scraps alight through me. So basically saying that I'm going through this myself. And then all of a sudden, again, you have to understand, put yourself in his situation, put yourself in his position as he is experiencing and he's talking. You have to see him as experiencing and talking, because he immediately comes back and says, I'm trying to explain. He's trying to explain to us, but he can't explain it. Now, what happens is, this is where, he's talking about his lover that says, I think of rhymes, but the beloved says, just for my face, reserve your constant gaze. It's like, why is it that you're thinking about rhymes? Why is it that you're trying to think about words? So he's like, just sit comfortably when you actually think about me, sit comfortably and just allow it to just go through you. Allow things to just flow through you. And he says, then I will give you words. And these words that I will give you are the words that you will be able to understand, which, if you remember, these were the words that he says that I didn't tell Adam, I didn't tell Abraham, and I didn't tell Gabriel. And none of these guys also know about this, because these are words that you only get to hear because I am there with you. And I'm championing this, and I am, protecting you all the way through. Okay. Then once he says this, you have to understand that all of a sudden he's like, oh my God, I'm so close to my lover. He tells me that, hey, don't even think about words anymore. Why am I even thinking about words? Then he turns around and he starts talking to us, which of course, he's telling us that, hey, if you ever experience this, and if you feel that you're in his ocean and you're going up and down, just go up and down with it. Don't complain. Don't ask questions. Just be with it and go with the flow. And be okay with the destructions, and be okay with the fact that, things might get rough, because there's always treasures at the end of all this. And if you are complaining, of course, is because you found him cheaply, and that's how you actually let go. So it's true. It's so true in our life as well. I mean, when you actually find let's say why is it that lottery winners always almost end up to be bankrupt? And I know lottery is right now what, at 890 million. I think, we should, I don't know, buy lottery tickets. But isn't it funny? They win millions of dollars, but they almost always go bankrupt. This is exactly why. You found it cheap, you give it up cheaply. And he's saying that that's the thing. You find your love cheap. That's why. So we know that there is love there. We know there is love. We exercise that. Why? Because every time we fall into a trap, or if there is something that actually goes wrong in our life, we immediately pray. We immediately seek God. We immediately want Him. And what we get is Him. He will come and He will assist, and He will get us out of our traps. And once He does that, then we just go along with our own business again, and we forget about it. That's the part that we find Him cheap and we give Him up very cheaply. And what he's saying is that I didn't find this cheap, and what He has is different than what we have. And He's trying to get us to have what He has. So therefore, He's trying to get us not to complain. Because complaints always serve an ego. And once you serve the ego, you are not connecting through the heart. All right. So I'm going to read this part. It's very difficult. Even in Farsi, it's difficult to read it. Actually, it's not in Farsi, it's in Arabic. But you guys will eventually get it. I promise. So, explanation of the saying of the Hakim. So, Hakim, in this case, it's a poet called Sanai. He is also somebody who was born in Balkh, meaning, the birthplace of Rumi and Maulana. And he also recited his poetry in Farsi. So, Iranians say that he's a Persian poet. And of course, people from Afghanistan say that, no, he's from Afghanistan. I don't care, one way or another. Anyways, so he says, if something holds you, if something holds you back on the path, what does it matter whether it is infidelity or faith? If something leads you far from the beloved, what does it matter whether it's ugly or beautiful? Okay, that part is really nice. So if something holds you back on the path, so if you're not going on the path, so if something holds you back on the path, what does it matter whether it's infidelity or faith? Your faith can also hold you back. Isn't it funny?
Mm-hmm.
It is funny, but it's very true. It's very true. I don't want to give a statistics on it, but we know that there are killings in this world because of religion. People kill each other because of religion. They believe that it is the way, a path to heaven. So the other part says, what does it matter whether it's so if something leads you far from the beloved, what does it matter whether it's ugly or beautiful? So beautiful things can take you away from your beloved or from God, and also ugly things can take you away from God. So it's like, in this case, what he's trying to tell us is that there is a truth and the path that's based on the truth, and everything else that falls outside of it, we should not follow. Then continues, says, on the meaning of the prophet's word, Sad is truly jealous. And this jealous is not the right word. in here. I don't think if this is what they're talking about. So in this case, he's talking about not jealousy, but somebody who can hold a possession. Okay. Somebody who is worthy of holding a possession. Okay. So Sad is truly worthy of holding a possession. And I am more worthy of holding something than Sad. While God, who is even more worthy than all of us, than me, has forbidden inward as well as outward foul deed because of his jealousy. So what he's trying to say, so this is part of Surah Araf, ayah 33. Let's also read that real quick. And that way we all can get better understanding. 33, 31, 32, 33. So, say the things that my Lord hath indeed forbidden are shameful deeds, whether open or secret, sins and trespasses against truth or reason, assigning up partners to Allah, for which he hath given no authority, and saying things about Allah of which you have no knowledge. So, if you put it in the context of this ayah, I think it kind of gives us a better meaning as far as what that truly meant. So it says that God, who is given more, possession than me, has forbidden inward as well as outward foul deeds because of his. So I cannot do anything. What inward and outward means that whether it's praise or what, because of the fact that I believe that he is the Almighty. Meaning that how should I say it? Meaning that it's not up to me to judge what happens and react to it. It is up to me to keep on the right path, whether it's beautiful or whether it's ugly, or whether it's right or wrong. In this case, whatever brings me closer to him, that's what I need to be completely subjecting myself to, and anything that deviates away from him, I should actually refrain from subjecting myself to it. Okay, now let's, I guess, go through and figure out what this says. Sorry.
Now, how do you go from position to jealous?
Say again, please.
In this translation, it says, on the meaning of the prophet's words, Saad is truly jealous.
I know. So, the word itself is qayur or ghayrat. And ghayrat or qayur means somebody who is the sole owner of something, and it has a possession that needs to be protected. So if I have ghayrat towards something, that means that thing is mine and I am protecting it. Okay, so normally in the Middle East, husbands have ghayrat over their wives, or men have ghayrat over their women. Now he's using the word jealous, which unless you actually look at jealousy from the very deep meaning as far as what that word means, everybody goes for a verbatim synonym, and that just completely deconstructs the poem. That's why I'm not trying to, I'm refraining from calling it jealousy. Does that make sense?
I
Yeah,
see.
maybe passion, not even passion. I do not know.
I don't think of his passion. No,
No.
I don't think there is a synonym for it in English. I mean, I've looked for it. It's in
So,
English. There is no word for it.
so a possessive behavior that I possess something, that probably would be equivalent.
That's it.
Possessive, controlling, but again, all of this are coming out of yeah, possessive, controlling, things like that. Okay. So it says the whole world's jealous.
But is it like when it says Saad is really jealous? Is it
So Saad, apparently, this is a hadith from the Prophet, and he's talking about Saad as one of his ashab, or one of his people, and he's just basically, in this case, you have to understand that Rumi, he does this as well. And of course, I'm nobody to actually criticize him on this part, but it bugs the hell out of me because he actually could take a part of some hadith and he pastes. I mean, in this case, if you guys read the Arabic portion of it, he's taken the hadith and he actually pasted at the end of it the ayah from Surah Araf. And he's the only one who can do that, I guess. I could never do it. So it is what it is. Sorry, Matty.
Yeah, I mean, is there like some, what was Saad? So what did Saad have such ghairat about?
So I'll find the exact name as far as who he was exactly, but I know that he was one of his friends or close advisors or something like that. Yeah. All right. So the whole world's jealous, for God's jealousy surpasses that of all humanity. So he's like, you have to understand that possession, let's use that. It's like everything that's in this world as possession, it's all God's possession. And God has surpasses all of us in that. He's like the soul, the world, his body frame, which must accept from him all things the same. Okay? Not a bad expression. If someone's prayer niche faces certainty, okay? I don't think if that's the right translation. Let's see. So if someone's prayer niche faces certainty, to turn around to faith is treachery. Okay. So let me explain it in a different way. So he's like, he says that if you experience certainty in any aspect of your life, if you, as you are praying or as you are trying to get closer to God, if you found certainty, if you go away and try to now, so it's like the moment you're connected, you have to let go of everything else. Let's just say that through a prayer, through an event, through something that you're experiencing, you get connected. Now for you to go back and try to then do some ritual to recreate that, that is a bad thing. The moment you're connected, you're connected. Stay connected. Don't deviate from it. Don't look anywhere else. Does that make sense? Don't do anything else. The moment you feel that you're connected, stay it. Stay with that connection. So if you're on waiting on the king, you lose if traveling off to trade, instead you choose. So he's like, listen, for example, if you're supposed to be, if you are about to wait on the king, meaning in fact that, the people who waited on kings, they were basically very close to the king. They were standing like, I don't know, like 10 feet away from the king, just waiting for his, order to do something and all that. So it's like, if you are very close to the king, if you are very close proximity, If you go away to do something different, then you're a fool. You shouldn't do that. If you choose now with the Sultan, later must wait at the gate, they'll scream, that's unjust. So he's like, if you're waiting on the king, or if you're even sitting next to the king, if you go and try to be at the gate again, or if somebody takes you and tell you that you have to wait at the gate, you're going to be pissed off, and that's not right. So he's like, figure out where you are with respect to your king or with respect to your God, and stay there and try to get closer. Do whatever you can to get closer to him. He's brought his hand, so with your lips they'll meet. It's sinful now to choose to kiss his feet. So he's like, if the king has extended his hand, you have to kiss his hand. If you fall down and try to bow down and kiss his feet, you're a fool. So he's even saying that the closer you get to his heart, the best it is for you. Does that make sense? He's trying to give us some kind of an example as far as how to gauge our closeness with our God, or with our lover in this case. It's like, if he brings his hand to kiss it, don't kiss his feet, kiss his hand. Lowering your head down humbly in this case is a mistake for which you'll earn disgrace. It's like, if you feel like that you're trying to be humble, so I'm going to actually lower my head, that is a wrong thing to do. Kiss his hand. Stay at that proximity. Stay close proximity. Be there. The king grows jealous if an onlooker, his perfume to his proud face should prefer. So he's like, I don't think if he's, okay. I don't think if he has understood this line. So this is a bad translation. So he's missed the line first, but then, this is a bad translation. So he's like, the king would not really like it if you were able to see the king's face, and you are allowed to see king's face without any sort of a shield or anything like that, and you turn around and you decide to see something different. If you prefer something different. This is not perfume, by the way. It's funny. In the Farsi version, it says, I'll say this for Mohsen. It says, Bu gozinat. He feels that it's talking about smell, but it's not. It's called bovad, which means like if he actually chooses something different. So the guy has completely misread this in this case. All right. So God's jealousy is like wheat in metaphor. Men's jealousy is like stack of straw. So he's like, you have to understand that when God has got possession, that's like, something that is usable and purposeful. And men's jealousy, that's us, is something that's completely useless. God is the root of every jealousy. Yes.
I think it also has a meaning if you really see bu means smell.
No, bovad. It's a bu yani bovad اینجا.
Because if you do it smell.
بو گزیند بعد از آن که دید رو. So in this case, it's like if he figures out something else after he has seen the face.
Okay. I mean, again, the reason I brought is, for example, for unknown person, you can, smell it like a blind person, or when you see that person in reality. So he says, if you can see it with eyes, recognizing him with the smell is not acceptable.
So yeah, but he's using a wrong word here as well. He says his perfume, but he should say his smell if he wanted to even go there. That's a wrong. Anyways, that's not a good translation. So God is the root of every jealousy, including envy, pledging you and me. So he's like, remember, every possession or everything that feels like a possession to us, God is the source of all of that, including what we envy in our own heart. I'll stop explaining. So he's like,
just a question. This
Go ahead.
in all the use of the word jealousy, this is ghirat.
exactly, yes,
What is that, including the last line where it says envy?
it is. Yeah,
Okay, it's all ghirat.
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. Thank you. So now he says, I'll stop explaining so I can complain. So now he's like, I'm done explaining this to you guys. Now I'm going to complain. And what is he going to complain about? Of that much worship beauty's gift of pain. So he's like, I'm going to go back to the pain that I've been gifted. And the pain that he's been gifted is that pain of love. Because it pleases him, I wail and moan. The two worlds must wait too. I'm not alone. So he's like, the fact of the matter is that he loves it and I'm going to keep doing it. And in this case, doesn't matter where I live or where I am, I will always be moaning and wailing for him. How can I not complain when things are hard, when from his drunkards circle I've been barred? So he's like, now I'm complaining because I'm not in the inner circle of his party. I'm not there to actually get drunk with everyone else, and I've been barred. The reason he's been barred is because he's living here in this earth. Everyone else is up there, and they are basically freely just doing what they need to do. Without his day, I can't stop being night. Of his bright face, I still have not caught sight. So he's like, there is just no way that I can have a day that can go on without having his face in my sight. I have to have it. Pleasantness from him, my soul thinks nice. My spirit longs to be his sacrifice. I'm in love with all my pain and grief to please my peerless king who brings relief. My grief's dust I have dabbed around my ocean's eye, so they'll produce a pearl of massive size. So he's basically now says that, hey, I will, in order to get to him, I will do whatever I can, or I would shed tears of pearl in order until I would get to him. There are pearls, not tears, which we cry for his sake. If people think there are tears, that's their mistake. So he's basically saying that any tear that you shed for the love of God, that's a pearl, not a tear. I moaned about the essence of our soul. So I moan about the essence of our soul, but I don't moan. Transmitting is my role. So it's like, you have to understand that what I'm saying is not necessarily me moaning about it, or me moaning is not the right word again. It's complaining. He's trying to tell us that what he says is not a complaint. He's just telling us something. And in this case, transmitting is not the right word. He's telling a story. That's what he says. Because he says ravayat, so he's using the word ravayat, which means like, you are telling a story about something. So you're ravi, or you're somebody who tells a tale. So he says that I'm complaining because of my own soul, but it's not complaint. It's me telling just the story of my feeling or my role. My heart says the beloved tortured me. I laugh at it, at its lack of sincerity. So he's like, it's funny. My heart is sometimes complaining and I laugh about it. Be good, O pride of good men, I implore. You are on your throne. I'm waiting at the door. So he's basically saying, he's talking about in this line, he's referring to some people that he actually gets to perhaps exemplify after, and he's telling them that throne is not the right word here as well. So in those days, when you would enter a room full of people, if they would invite you to be at the very top of their room, that means that you are respected by everyone. So if somebody of an elderly or that was respected, he would enter the room, everybody would get up. I think all of you guys have experienced that, and they would direct him to the very top of the room, and they would give him somewhere to actually sit with a nice place to rest and all that stuff. The people who are not as important, they would sit by the door. So in this case, this is what he's saying. He's like, I'm waiting by the door, but you are sitting over there very pretty next to the king. What's throne and threshold in reality? What meaning have such terms as I and we? So he's now talking about that if I am with my lover, these things don't have any meaning at the end. And me and we doesn't have any meaning. As soon as I'm actually with him, if I'm at his presence, that there is no I or we. Oh, you whose soul has fled these and lives free, each man and woman's spirit subtly. Now, he's talking about people who are close to God. And he says, you're the ones who have fled these lives, and you have even fled the names that you were given in this world. So our soul does not have a gender assigned to it. So a soul is not a man or a woman. The moment that the soul enters a body, it gets assigned a gender. So he's saying that each man and woman's spirit is always comes after, the soul assigns into it. So it's like, because you're being freed, you're free of all of these things. You made these I's and we's so you could play the bad game of worship every day. So it's like, you guys, it's us. In this case, it's ego and the mind that actually created the I and the we's so that they could understand and comprehend things on a daily basis in this game of, life that we are playing. So all of these I's and we's can finally merge in their beloved totally submerged. So it's like, at the end of the day, all these I's and we's are always, they're going to, merge together, and they would submerge with the beloved. Bring here the order, be for you, for only you, transcend all speech and all your wishes too. So he's like, all these I's and we's finally have to come together. So he says, bring here the order, be for only you. So in this case, it's like, this is difficult. All right, bring here the order, be only for you, transcend all speech and all our wishes too. So this is kind of like a pray. The be part that he's referring to, the be is basically kon fayakun. So it's the kon, right? So when you say, when God says kon fayakun, so that's like be and you become, right? So it's like the order of be, bring it. And it is only for you. You, in this case, is the person who wants to be submerged in God. And it's like, bring it here and bring that order to me. So transcend all speech and all our wishes to, which that order of be goes beyond everything that we feel and we want in this life. The body thinks that you are one as well.
But
Your
that
grief, yes.
the U is capitalized, right?
Yes, you is capitalized, yes.
So that's
You.
not God, or
For only you, yes, you're right. It's capitalized as that it's only God who can do this, yeah.
oh
But
God.
it's us who get submerged in the be or in the kon. So when you says be, we submerge in the becoming. Does that make sense? Okay. These are difficult, man.
It is.
Sorry. The body thinks that you are one as well. Your grief and laughter, it thinks it can tell. So now he's like, what it is that once we are becoming, the body is trying to comprehend how is it that we are going through this becoming experience, and therefore tries to figure out if it can somehow understand or comprehend your grief or laughter that's associated for this becoming. A heart that's bound by joy and misery does not deserve to see you properly. So meanwhile, as those who are granted this vision and this closeness, there are those hearts that are bounded, they're not bounded by joy. And that's because so they have joy and misery in there. So in this case, they're still not fully detached from the mind. There is still misery in their lives. Remember, every ups and downs for Rumi is a joyous event. But for somebody who is attached to the I and we, or to their ego, in this case, every event has got a joy and a grief. And the moment that you actually have that, that means that you're still attached to your ego. So those trapped in misery and laughter snare all live dependent on such borrowed ware. So they're always dependent on what is borrowed. And in this case, what's borrowed is every event is a borrowed event. How do I actually become happy? It's a borrowed event because I have to borrow the happiness from somewhere outside of myself so that I can actually be happy. I should eat a nice meal so I can actually be happy. I should actually wear a nice clothes so I can actually be happy. These are borrowed events. Love's blooming garden, which lives even more apart from joy and grief, has fruits galore. So there is a different place as well, that it is the, where love lives, the blooming garden of love, which in addition to the sadness and happiness, or the laughter and the sadness, there's other fruits in there that you can actually enjoy, and all of them are for your joy. You only know sadness and happiness. You don't know all of them. And that's the part that, we are completely blindsided to. Being a lover is beyond despair. So the pair that he's talking about is the pair of happiness and sadness. So he's like, in order to be a lover, you need to be beyond despair, fresh always in both spring and autumn air. So he's like, you have to always be fresh. You would always be fresh, irrespective of whether it is autumn or fall or whether it's spring. Pay tax on your fair face. light up my heart and spark about the soul that's torn apart. Now, again, he comes back and he's telling himself that there is a hadith from the prophet that says that the zakat of whoever that knows something is to educate others. So he's utilizing that, and he says, pay a tax or pay zakat or tithing on your fair face. In this case, fair face, that means like on your beautiful face, and light my heart. Because of your beautiful face, my heart can be lit and lighted up, and speak about the soul that's torn apart. And now talk about the soul that has been torn apart from his lover. So now he goes back again and he's talking about himself. For teasing glances from his expert flirt, has branded his big heart inside my shirt. So it's like every time that I think about my lover, anything that reminds me of him, it just brands this big heart inside my shirt. So in this case, the branding means that it just how you would brand a cow. For instance, you would heat up some sort of a long metal thing, and they would brand a cow with that. It would just permanently mark a cow. So he's saying that with your pain, brand my heart, so that people know that I'm completely yours and I'm completely devoted to your love. Let him shed my blood, and then I say it's lawful for you, but he runs away. So he's like, I keep saying that, hey, why don't you just shed my blood? Why don't you just take me with you, or take me, or free me out of my misery? And he runs away from doing that. He doesn't do it. He wants me to keep on, experiencing this misery. So he says, since from all men's laments you thus apart, why fill with grief each tired and chanting heart? So he's like, I understand that you don't want to be close to anyone who actually is, you don't want to be close to anyone who is attached to this earth. I get that. But why is it that you do this to me and you keep on pushing me away in this journey? I let him shed my blood, and then I say it's lawful for you, but he runs away. Okay, so I've read this already. While each dawn sends out from the east its light, you are its source, full, shimmering, and bright. So now he goes back and he's again praising his lover, that every morning, this is where, I find you. While each dawn sends out from the east its light, you are its source, full, shimmering, and bright. Your frenzied lover, how can you dismiss? Your frenzied lover, how can you dismiss? You whose sweet lips for no sum grant a kiss. He's basically telling his lover that you're playing hard to get, and why are you doing this to me? To an old world, a soul you can provide. I therefore wait, I have no soul inside. So he's like, this is interesting. He's referring to this. You guys remember we read this already, that Rumi believes that our lives renews itself at every instance. So at every instance we are renewed. We live a renewed life. Remember, we talked about this. This was in the story of the I think the Vizier story. So he was talking about the fact that, our lives just, keeps on coming like a, flowing water, and our life just keeps on renewing itself. So he's like, you give this old world a soul to be renewed. I therefore wait. Therefore wail, I have no soul inside. So he's like, I get my soul from you. Stop talking of the rose described for me, the nightingale which must live separately. So he's like, don't talk about the rose. I want to talk about the nightingale who was with the rose and now you took him away. Now, again, it's, but again and again, he keeps on talking about his own experience, the fact that he feels that he was taken away from, his source, or he was separated from his lover. Our fervor does not come from joy or grief. Our consciousness is not a false belief. So what he's now describing is what he's telling us, and what we are hearing and what we're thinking. So he's saying that what I'm going through is not coming from joy or grief. And it's not because of any sort of false belief, is not the right translation here. It's like, I'm not imagining something, or I'm not dreaming something. I believe this wholeheartedly. It's different, every rare and valuable. Don't say it can't be. God is capable. So he's like, I know that you guys can't believe me when I say that my feeling doesn't come from joy or grief. I get that. But he's like, you have to understand that there is a different way, which is rare and valuable. And please don't say that God is not capable. God is capable of giving you that. If someone's humble, so he says, these are beautiful words. If someone's humble state, please don't decide. We're doing good. Do not be satisfied. So he's like, don't just compare what you're going through to what I'm going through. People go through different experiences. On someone's humble state, please don't decide. We're doing good. Do not be satisfied. Good, evil, joy, and grief are transient states which die and leave to God all their estates. So these, like, all these stuff are things that are meant to die, because they are, the source of them are all from outside of ourselves. The good that we experience, the evil, the joy, and the grief, they're all meant to die, and they're all meant to be disappearing, because they don't last forever. That's what he's saying, because the causes of them are all from outside. But what sticks with us is hopefully the joy that we experience from within. That's the joy that stays, that sticks with us. Now, having said this, he says, it's dawn. That means that, the morning has come. Our refuge, who fills dawn with light, please make Hossam forgive it, took all night. Now, he says that this is morning, everybody's tired, especially Hossamuddin. And if you remember, Hossamuddin is the person that he has been reciting Masnavi for. So he's like, he's really tired. So please forgive me because I took too long. To grant forgiveness to us is your role. So he's talking to Hossamuddin now, because he believes Hossamuddin is one of those connected souls. He's like, why don't you ask for forgiveness for all of us? The choral splendor, you're the whole world's soul. Dawn spread its light, now through the rays you shine. We sit and drink Mansur's most potent wine. So the word Mansur here is not a name, but this guy is referring to it as a name. So That's a bad translation again. Sorry. So what he's saying is that, yeah, the morning dawn has come, the light has spread, and we get light from your. He's like, because you have spread, and in this case, he's talking about his friend Hosamuddin. So it's like, because you shone your light, we just got that light, and in this morning wine that we are drinking, we got that from you. You're the one who's providing us this morning wine. Apparently there is some kind of wine that people would drink in the morning. I don't know.
Is it not referring to Mansur Hallaj?
No, it's not. Is referring to the Meye Mansur. So in this case, it's the wine which is Mansur, which is of morning and what do you call it? Morning and Piruzi. What do you call it? Now I'm losing words. Winning and overcoming. That's what that word is. Not the Mansur Hallaj. No. It's not him. I know that.
Again, the reason I refer to that, because it says, obviously the first part is very clear that is it, light of the morning, but we are getting your light, and comparing getting the light of God to the drunkenness that Mansur had from the May of connections. So that's how I went to Mansur Hallaj, because it's comparing the light of, let's say, day to the light of heart from God to getting, drunk of May. Yeah.
So hold on. So I get it, but he's talking about, in this case, he's talking about the word which is Mansur in Farsi, means somebody who's been given a lot of help, or somebody who's given a lot of assistance. Nusrat dade shode, yari dade shode. So in this case, he's saying that Sabuhi, that he's using the word Sabuhi, is the morning wine. So he's like, in this morning wine that we're getting it because of your assistance. You're the one who's giving it to us. That's what he means. Okay. So then he goes and says, since your kind gift makes me experience this. So again, now he's referring to Hosamuddin. So he's like, this is the kind gift that you've given me, that I experienced this feeling, this morning wine, this morning drunkenness with the ray of the sun that's coming through you. What need have I for earth wine to feel bliss? Compared with ours, wine has no strength at all. So it's like, this wine that I drink, the earth wine doesn't have any strength. Compared with our expansions, heaven's small. So now he's talking about the heaven that people think about. And it's like, with the expansion that we have and the way that we see the expansion of our lives, the heaven that everybody talks about is fairly small. All wine gets drunk through us, not us through it. Our form lives for us, not the opposite. And now he makes a very, very big statement here. He says that the wine gets that drunkenness because of us. We're the one who give wine the drunkenness. Think about that. The fact of the matter is that a bottle of wine can only do something if we drink it. If you pour a bottle of wine on a piece of wood or on a stone, the stone doesn't get drunk. The wood doesn't do anything to it. So we're the one who are giving the drunken. So it is a huge statement about the power of our being, and in this case, he's talking about the human beings. He's like, we are the one who gave drunk to wine, to drunken power to wine. We give that power to him, not him. The wine doesn't give it to us. Just like all of our form lives for us, not the opposite. Now, in this case, he's talking about the fact that if we were in this body, if we were not in this body would completely be dead. So it gets its form because we are in it. Does that make sense? I mean, he said all of this stuff to actually get us to understand these two statements. So basically, us in this case is the us who get to, drink this amazing morning or potent wine. So that is us. These are the people who he's talking about in these two statements. So compared with ours, wine has no strength at all. Compared with our expansions, heaven is small. All wine gets drunk through us, not us through it. All our form lives for us, not the opposite. This is the biggest lesson that Rumi can give us now about how big we are in this life form, and how, of course, small we are. We can live with our greatness, and we can live with our connection, or we can always live with our smallness as well. Every time we think of we and I, we become small. Every time we think in terms of the joy and sadness that comes from outside, we become small. But every time that we look at ourselves from within and realize our own greatness, and we get drunk through the wine of our own greatness, then we're big, and everything else, and heaven is small for us. We are bees, our bodies like the honeycomb, since through our soul we have built home after home. So he's like, in this case, we are like the bees, and our bodies are like the honeycomb. And as bee, that in the Quran, it's been there's an ayah that says that the bee actually gets a revelation from God, and it says that through those revelations, as bees make their own houses, we also were revealed with a specific power, and in this case, it's nafakhtu min ruhi, or God blew into us, and we were able to actually make our own houses. We have to but know where we came from and how we got that source and how we got that power. I know this was difficult. I know. But this was also beautiful. I mean, oh my God. The amount of time that he jumps from one element to another is amazing. But never forget this, that he keeps on talking about an estate, and he keeps on understanding. Once he starts describing his own state, he immediately switches and becomes this lover, as if he's been taken away from his love, and he's far away. And remember, he's talking about this in this story of this parrot who's away from India, or from the rest of his the gang who's in India, and he's trying to explain that this whole separation that he's experiencing is not pleasant to him, and he doesn't like it. So he does, and he says what he can to tell us how this is actually affecting him. But meanwhile, we are we've got challenges to understand where he's coming from. Let me just read this small passage as well. So it gets back to the story of the merchant. So it's too long to detail in this text. So he's like basically stopping himself right about here. In that last narrative, what happened next? So he's like, let's just get back to the story and finish that. So the parrot's owner, pinned and burnt with pain, muttering nonsense, which now filled his brain. So basically, whatever came to his brain, I think about that, why he's using that word. And he kept on talking about it and just said it. Opposite states in need, then haughtily, I think. Sorry, I don't know the pronunciation of this word. True ecstasy, then metaphorically. So it's like in this case, he kept on talking about just different states. Either sometimes he was too high, or sometimes he was metaphorically, or it was just basically somebody in need, or things like that. A drowning man believes he's going to die and grasps at straws that happen to drift by. So he's like, in this case, he was like a drowning man. He felt that he had to give up his bird, and he didn't like it. To see if one might save him from his strife, he flaps his arms to hold on a dear life. Now, this example that he's talking about is somebody who's about to drown and doesn't fully understand the fact that, he needs to submerge and he needs to just let go and flow with the water. So he tries to actually somehow hang on to what he believes is the dear life. The loved one loves to see us scream and weep. Now he goes right back into his own state again, and he's talking about his lover. It's like, my lover just loves to see me scream and weep. To struggle thus is better than to sleep. So he's like, I will do the same. So I will struggle because he loves it. And I will do this because, I know he loves it. The king is not without work, but he still will never moan because he isn't ill. So you have to understand, he's given us an example that if you hear a king that he is moaning, that doesn't mean that the king is ill or is in need. It's just because he wants something that you don't understand. Now, in this case, a king within us, if it moans, that doesn't mean that so he's talking about himself. He's like, if I'm moaning, that doesn't mean that I need something. That means that I am very much, so he's trying to tell us that, what is that?
Nothing. I was just sneezing. Sorry.
Okay, so what he's trying to say is that it's just, I'm not in need. I'm just really, really in love, basically. And my moaning is because you don't understand my pain, but my pain and your pain are two different things. And so the merciful choose to declare each day he's busy with a new affair. So he's like, this is the ayah 29 from Surah Ar-Rahman, which says that every day God is doing something. So it's like, you have to understand that God is, it's not that God is without work. It's about the fact that later on in Masnavi, as we go forward a few chapters, he talks about the fact that people believe that God has been resting, and God never rests, because all of the major religions, they believe that God created earth in 6 days and he rested the seventh one. It's just that so happens the Muslims believe that it's on Friday, Jews believe it's on Saturday, and Christians believe it's on Sunday. I mean, it's really funny. We can't even agree on a day that God rested. So, I mean, so But what he's basically trying to tell us is that, remember, each day he is busy with a new affair. So don't think that he's resting or anything like that. He's basically making fun of us. Let's put it this way. Persist in struggle till you meet your end. Don't even take the slightest pause, my friend. So he's like, the struggle that you have to fully understand what God is and what is the God within you, and finding that love, persist with that, and don't wait. Or don't don't rest, so that your final breath may be the one which wins the gift of mystic union. So it's like, maybe at your final breath you actually become, mystically reunited with your love, and that way you will have your salvation in this lifetime as well. Whatever men and women seek to try is noticed by the soul's king watchful eye. So it's like, remember that whatever you do, whatever you thrive towards, he sees it and he's watching you, and he can actually understand and comprehend where you're going towards. Okay.
So the king is not capitalized because this is Rumi.
No. No. I don't think if he's being consistent about what it refers to God and what refers to him, unless you're paying more attention than I am. In this case, when I look at the Farsi translation, he's talking about the expression that is used in Farsi is the person who owns the secret. And in this case, the person who owns the secret is the one who is the king. Okay.
Well, that's what in Farsi it's the person who owns the secret.
Yeah, but it's God who owns the secret. And then the last line, which says that if you're a man or a woman, no matter what you are seeking for, what eventually what God is looking at is okay, so he's not I don't want to keep saying that he's not translating this right, because then I'm discrediting this a lot. But in this case, he's not really referring to what has been said in here. What has been said in Farsi is this, that whatever man or woman is actually thriving towards, the watchful eye of the king, or the king of my soul, okay, is looking at that small hole that you are able to drill in your heart. Remember, we're all trying to drill that small hole so the light can get through. So it's like all that king of souls is looking for is that small hole. So therefore, I don't think we can count on the fact that whether this is capital or not.
Because I was looking at the other, like where it says the loved one. The loved one loves to see us scream and weep, to struggle.
Exactly. Yeah.
The king is not without work.
I know.
Still will never moan because he isn't ill.
The street is no car.
So the king is not without work. He's really going after the that ayah in Surah Ar-Rahman. It says, kulla yawman huwa fi sha'n. So basically, he's referring to that ayah, which is referring to God, that every day he's doing something. He's not without work. That's why I'm saying I don't think if we can actually relate this specifically to whether, if he goes after specific capitalization.
Okay.
Although he may have referenced it, but again, I don't think so. In this case, for sure, the king is not without work. This king, this is God.
Okay.
But he still will never moan because he isn't ill. But he says, like, you would never hear him moan because he's never ill. So don't compare him with your own moaning or things that you actually will, and in this case, the moaning that he's doing as well. I think it's unfortunately, yeah.
So what is this moaning then? Like if
So the moaning that he is referring to originally is the moaning that he does, that he is all moaning about it, the separation. Okay. And he's like, so hold on. So it says the loved one loves to see us scream and weep. So this is God again. He loves us to scream and weep. He just loves this moaning. And it's like, so this second line is an expression. It says, you better do something towards it than sleep on it or not doing anything. So it's like, if you're doing something about it, it's better than not doing anything about it. Okay. Then he goes into reaffirming the fact that it's us who are supposed to get to him, not him. So it's us who are supposed to thrive. So it's like the king is not without work, but he still will never moan because he isn't ill. So it's like you would never hear him coming back and moaning about you separating from him. And you would never hear and in this case, he's not ill to actually even let us hear him even moaning from an illness. And so the merciful choose to declare, and by the way, he's already said that he's busy with new affair every day. Now you have to persist in your struggle, and you're the one who's supposed to go after it, and you're the one who's supposed to find it. Okay.
got it. Cool. Thanks.
I like it that, Martin, you're like really, really making me work for this. No, but seriously, it's really good. I'm telling you guys, I have read this, I have taught this, and I have a Farsi version in front of me as well. And God knows this is difficult. So I'm glad you guys hung in there. All right, we're gonna stop here. Thank you very much. And I shall see you guys next week, inshallah.
Thank you.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.